Okay, it looks like we're all here, so we'll call this meeting to order. Certification open meetings, I believe you can tell us that it was properly noticed?
Yep.
Okay. We have a 16-item agenda, looking for a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Carried. Previous minutes?
I'll second.
Motion and second. Any discussion, questions? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We have our public comment period, and read that members of the public will have a 15-minute block of time to comment on today's agenda items. Members of the public must be present at the beginning of the meeting or the comment period will be waived. Public comment period may be extended or curtailed at discretion of the chair and after advisement by the Exec Finance Committee. Anybody wishing to call in can call 715-538-1770. 715-538-1770. We'll leave it open and move on. If somebody calls, we'll,
Question, Mr. Chair.
yes.
Did they say that the public couldn't enter via Zoom, or what did the IT say?
It didn't say anything about IT. It just says must be present. What's
Says
that?
we are on the air.
We're supposed to be on the air. Yes,
Okay,
yes, we're
I
on the
thought
air,
this-
but there's a problem with the Zoom call, Zoom
Gotcha.
meeting.
We're having technical difficulties with the Zoom issue, so if all the members are here and the only one that we need is Rick, we're gonna need to find out if he's in the building, because if we don't.
He's gonna be late.
I-
He's just gonna be late.
He won't be here till like 9.
Yeah, and he's on the agenda, so usually he doesn't make personal appearance if he's on the agenda.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, county sales tax update.
I think it's a good time to introduce the new clerk office staff.
I was wondering who's sitting there.
Melissa.
Okay, we'll go for the introduction.
Yeah, she's our new employee. She's gonna be doing fixed assets, stuff like that Tammy Colbert used to do. She's replacing Tammy.
Okay, welcome.
Welcome.
Alyssa or Melissa?
Alyssa.
Anything else? Thanks, John.
Yep.
Now the sales tax update. Had a good month in February.
I'd
Yeah.
say. Things are moving along pretty well, aren't
Yep,
they?
yes, for that part. Hope, it'd be nice if it continued that way. Any
Just
other?
1 month left, right?
No, that was
That's
the
it.
last one.
That's
That
it.
was the last one.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So we're at 2,741,000 now,
Right, okay, it was.
with a budget of 2,250,000, so we're about a $500,000 over.
Yeah, $500,000 over budget, which is
Yep.
pretty good.
Yep.
We'll need
On
it.
the intake side, it's
Yeah.
good. Okay, general fund? Any commentary, questions?
Little change since last month.
I didn't notice anything big myself, but
Is Steve coming down? Oh.
I think so.
we still have, let's see, roughly 3, no, where is it? 3 million, a little over 3 million in there, the unassigned. Well, hearing nothing else, we'll move on. Department reports and requests. Quarterly update from Steve Young from the Veterans. I think, there you were, yes.
I'm here. Good morning.
Morning.
Usually I have a handout for everybody. I emailed it this time, so you could refer to it, because one of them is very long. So if I printed it out, it would have been close to 100 pages.
Another
So
one.
we kept it on the screen for Tim Robertson. The real quick and easy today. I wanted to let you know that I'm doing a radio show on WHTL with the American Legion now. Roughly every third week, I'll be on the radio at 9, 10 in the morning. And then Brian Liga, the commander, will be on the week prior to me. We'll have a break, and then it starts over. So roughly every 3 weeks, I'll be on there. It's live stream on Facebook, and then we're sharing it to our Facebook page as well. So the first week's on there, and then I'll be on this next Tuesday, and we'll live stream that each time. So the last time we talked about, the first one I was on with Brian, we introduced ourselves, talked about what we were going to be doing on the program. The next time I was on by myself, and I talked about the PACT Act, and then this next time I'm going to do VA healthcare. It's around 10 or 15 minutes long, and from what I understand, it's getting good visibility. Between their Facebook and ours, it was between 600 and 1,000 views, so
Cool.
doing pretty good. Let's see. The longer document that I emailed out is the 2023 Governor's Veteran Investment Initiative. So the state had extra ARPA funds, and they're sending us more money, essentially is what it is. And from what I'm told, it's going to be around the tune of $15,878. It still has to fall under Schedule A ARPA requirements, all that kind of stuff. So I'm in contact with Rick, to make sure that the use is proper and all that. And then it's got some very strict accounting guidelines that goes along with it. We have to report back to WDVA how we spend it. We have to account for it. That's all included in the email that I sent out to you guys. And I haven't nailed down what I want to use it for yet. I've been talking to other counties about what they're doing, and nothing they're doing yet has just struck me as that's what I want to do. So some of them are going to spend their entire allotment to do like an every door mailer to just hit every single door in their county. I don't know if that's what I want to do yet. So I'm gonna talk to some other VSOs like American Legion, VFW in the area, see what their thoughts are, talk to some partner groups, try and figure out the best way to use that money for outreach.
To try to pinpoint the money rather than, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, it's somewhat broad. It says it's supposed to be there so that we can, to increase our effectiveness with serving the veteran population in the county, and not to be restricted only to marketing, but that seems to be what everybody's using it for. But I'm gonna try and keep thinking about it. I don't wanna rush into it. I wanna make it effective use of funds.
Do
Any
you have a
questions?
time limit that you have to use it, or?
There is a time limit on there, but it's more of a time limit based on when we have to report by, and if we don't use it by a certain date, we give it back.
Okay.
But it's, I'm not even quite sure they know exactly what they want to do with it yet, the state itself. So a lot of it's going to just depend. And more will come on that. Yeah, so you guys you have that in your email now. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about quickly was, because of the PACT Act, which I briefed you guys about last time, was the major health eligibility increase that they did, and included a lot of OEF, OIF veterans along with Gulf War, and pretty much includes about 3.2 million veterans who weren't previously eligible for enrollment. So it's burn pits, it's oil well fires during the Gulf War, it's toxic exposure in the workplace, like painting cars, sanding, airplanes, things like that. You don't have to be a deployer for this one. So that's actually brought us in quite a few younger veterans, like OEF, OIF, Gulf War, when typically we get mostly Vietnam guys. So we are starting to see a younger influx of folks. So that's been good. We're getting a lot of new business from this PACT Act. So that's about the only major updates I had for you this morning. Thought I'd let you read through the email I sent out, and then if you have questions, I can answer those further later. Any questions right now?
I'm questioning my ability with a computer, but I have not seen an email in my folder from you.
You just sent it at 8:30.
Yep.
Oh, well, then I won't get it till tomorrow, probably.
Otherwise, yeah, it's a long read, but
Okay.
I think a lot of it's going to be repetitive for you guys because it's ARPA fund usage pretty much like it was before. It's just some reporting practices that are specific for this.
Okay.
Otherwise, I can answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay. Good. Keep up the good work. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thanks, Steve.
Next one is quarterly update from Rick, Corporate Counsel.
It's on here. Just want to update on a couple of things. Last month, I think you all remember, I did come to the board regarding the new settlements for the opioid litigations. Excuse me, got a little cold here. We now have a formal resolution, a generic one that I'm doing some tweaking on to bring to the full county board. You guys voted last month to join it, and so now it'll go to the full county board. We will have a draft of a resolution that'll be also going forward as well, which I will get to you before the county board meeting, so that you can just review to make sure there isn't anything on there that is any concern. We just got those, so I'm just kind of going through those. Again, the county board will then make a determination if they want to ultimately end up joining, and then John would have the authority to sign the participation agreements. So that was something that we did last month, so I just wanted to give you an update as to where that's at. And then generally this time of year, I give you an update or a review from last year, some of the cases that we do through the office. So I'll start out with the mental health commitment cases. Last year, there were 43 cases that were filed through what we call the emergency detention process. Those are individuals in the community who are experiencing some kind of a crisis that law enforcement typically would be involved in, and then are taken to a facility for evaluation. So we had 43 of those were filed. 6 of those resulted in what we call settlement agreements. Those agreements are if an individual complies with certain requirements for 90 days, then the case ultimately gets dismissed because they're doing so well. So we had 6 of those. 6 resulted in following through with a commitment, which is a full-blown doctor's evaluation and due process hearing, those types of things. 3 were transferred to other counties. If an individual is a resident of a different county, but they are taken into custody here in our county, we do the initial hearing, and then after what we call the probable cause hearing, it gets transferred to their county of residence. The county of residence is then responsible for any costs associated with those types of proceedings. So 3 were transferred. We do get some from other counties transferred in of residents of our own as well too, so those are as well. And 28 of them were ultimately ended up being dismissed. Again, when an individual is taken to a facility, we start the court process. They get some evaluations done, and then ultimately between the doctors and my office, we determine whether or not to go through with the commitment process itself. So 28 were ultimately ended up dismissed. They might have received voluntary services through the department or in some other fashion that they received services. And then we had three-party petitions. That's when family members or people who know an individual are concerned with their mental health status. They'll approach our office and we will prepare the documentation to proceed with the commitment process, but it's started a little bit differently type of process. So there was 3 of those as well too. The 43 cases is very similar to last year. Last year we had 44. And then previous years to that, it was significantly higher, 62, 59, so forth. I know I've talked to this committee previously about how the changes in the law, particularly over the last year and a half, I do believe are impacting how these cases are going forward. So that's how it compares to other years. Once a person's on commitment, we have to review it once every year by law. And so we had 20 of them come up for review, which means we have 20 people on commitment at any given time typically. 9 of them were recommitted, and 11 of them, the doctor recommended that there not be a recommitment. So those are the ones that are ongoing, and then those would be in addition to the 9 more that were put on this last year. So that just gives you an idea as to where things are at. Again, too, they're making sure they follow the recommendations, those types of things. So that's the mental health commitment cases. Excuse me. Guardianship cases, there were 31 new cases that were filed. Obviously with a guardianship, it's anybody who is not able to make their own decisions due to an incapacity. So there's 31 of those were filed. Again, whenever anybody's on guardianship, generally speaking, they typically don't ever get off. Once in a while, there might be an individual who is suffering some kind of a medical condition that incapacitated them for a period of time, and then they may regain capacity. But generally speaking, once you're on it, you're typically on it for the rest of your life. So there was 31 new cases filed, and with the existing caseload of, I don't have the exact number of existing caseload, but we have the guardianships, and then we have what we call protective placements. Those individuals who can't live in their own home due to any particular reason. We have 46 of those that are ongoing, so every year we have to review those in court. And so we had 46 annual reviews of protective placement last year. And so the 31 new cases that were filed, those will get added on to the 46 that we review every year. And so sometimes people ask for due process hearings, other times they're stipulated. It just kind of depends. With there's so many of them, it just kind of depends on those. But comparison to previous years, so there were 31 new ones in 2022. There were 36 in 21, and then 22, 24, 29 going backwards type of situations. So those generally come into the department as a referral, and then our social workers go out, review the situation, and then they contact us if they feel that we need to proceed in some form or fashion. So those are the numbers from last year. Other than the settlements, which you guys are aware of, those are really the major updates I wanted to provide the committee. Does anybody have any questions on any of those items?
Any questions?
Great, thank you.
Yep. And that completed it. Okay. That completed your report? Yes, okay. Thanks, Rick. Moving on to a resolution, the purchase of dispatch equipment for the Justice Center project. And I think the sheriff is here to talk about it.
If you want me to.
Well, just review what happened.
What's happened prior to today?
Right.
All right. So this is coming from the Law Enforcement Committee. That committee did move this resolution passed. This is the resolution that I pulled off the table a month ago. We were anticipating using underspent 2022 budget funds to purchase this equipment. When the final review of the budget came in, I felt it was a better idea just to do a general fund resolution on it instead. My budget's going to be too close to think that I can safely pull this from the 2022 budget. So this equipment is the desks that will support the radio system and the time system in the new dispatch center. This particular vendor was the first vendor that we had reached out to. Since then, we reached out to two others, and one responded, and that bid was $114,000. So this still remains our cheapest vendor. I did survey sheriffs across Wisconsin who recently upgraded their dispatch centers, and this company is by far the most widely used one of all the responses I received. So I brought this resolution to the Law Enforcement Committee to draw $74,000 plus dollars from the general fund and put it into my 2023 budget for the purpose of purchasing those consoles. I guess from there I'll answer any questions that you may have.
So the only question I have, or originally you were going to have some money to turn back into the general fund, that has disappeared, or is there something there?
Nope. So when the final audit is done of my budget, I think it's going to be a positive reflection on the general fund. And the reason I say that is because my bottom dollar of my budget, as it stands right now, doesn't include the revenues that come in during the year.
Okay.
So I anticipate just a rough guess between 50 and 100,000 going back into the general fund when the audit is done.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
What's the longevity of this furniture, I guess, like that, with the consoles?
Well, the furniture that we're currently using would be subject to the same working hours and conditions as the stuff we're going to be purchasing. What we have now is 18 years old, and our maintenance director told us it will not survive another move. This would be it has already been moved once from a previous location, so you're looking at 15 to 18 years. They have moving parts on them. They raise and lower and slide in and slide out, and they're occupied 24 hours a day, basically 7 days a week. So.
And this includes bringing them in, setting them up?
No. Yes.
No.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yep.
I know we talked about that before.
Yep.
but-
So there was a little, very small print on the bottom of that estimate that we got that talked about a contingency that would be at the basically the going rate for labor. It would be above and beyond the contract. So there's $15,000 built in to deliver and install this equipment. If for some reason other contractor activity out there delays them from setting it up once they get here, then it's going to be an hourly rate. The Samuels Group on-site director here assures us that that's not going to be an issue. And then the warranty would be void if we chose to put it together ourselves. I did look into that as well. So.
Just for a point of order, I make a motion.
Okay.
Go with this so we can discuss it.
I thought of that while he was talking. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, now we can talk about
So I
it.
start over now?
Sheriff,
Push the
Yeah.
replay button.
in terms of a delivery, you know, how far out are they?
6 to 8 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So-
very, very,
okay.
very good lead times compared to what other stuff is looking like out there.
And this isn't something that we're gonna have to have in place otherwise to get the jail certified either, right? It's
This is totally separate from the jail, yep. I will add, it's still separate from the jail, but there is a piece of this that, it's a 4-position console setup that we're buying. One of those positions is for a standalone computer to stand on. That will be the override for master control in the jail. But that's totally separate from any type of state inspector certification that has to go on, so.
Any other questions?
Nothing has changed as far as the layout of the schematics you showed us before?
No,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. If there's no more questions, I'll call for a vote on this to move it forward to full county board. All in favor of moving this motion forward, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Now, did Paul leave you with, oh, there you go. Yeah, I should have asked you, not you. So you'll take that back to him once it's all signed? I don't have to worry about that?
Right.
Okay.
And then law enforcement's gonna sign it Thursday, right? They signed the original, but then he added both.
Oh,
pages.
yeah, yeah.
So I'll give it to
I
you.
suspect, yep, and I won't be there, so I'll remind her, yep.
Yep, thanks. Okay, next. Item number 10. Discussion possible action regarding the opioid settlement. That is the one. Does everybody have a copy of that? Or have it on their computer? Okay. This is the one that came, and when I talked to Paul, he had told,
For the request of opioid ARPA funds, that's just the next item.
that's the next one.
Yeah, you didn't get anything mailed for.
Okay. So we're back, yeah. We're-
And I wasn't sure if it had been added to the agenda. It was, what I gave in my update is that last month you approved participation in the settlement, and so it'll go to full county board then this month as well, too. We have the deadline, oh, shoot, I forgot, if we don't do it at the March meeting, then we potentially will miss the deadline unless we have a special meeting, so. But again, it was something that we had discussed last month and approved, so.
Okay. Any other questions, items on that one? Sorry about that, I was looking in the wrong direction. Now we've got on to the request for funds. Now, does everybody have a copy of what the request was?
Yes.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Now, when I talked to Paul the other day, he had told me he didn't think the other committees had seen this yet. Bridget tells me both committees, Board of Health and Human Services, have met and approved it. So, I guess it does come into our lap. Anybody want to make a motion to move this forward so we can talk about it?
I'll move to approve the resolution requesting opioid and ARPA funds for the community center
Yeah, motion and a second. Okay, now we can legitimately talk about it. Open. Well, nobody else starting. I'll start with some concerns I have. The way it is worded with ARPA and opioid funds, my understanding that this committee has a consensus, I don't think there was ever a vote, that no ARPA funds are gonna be committed to anything else until the building was completed. So the part about requesting ARPA funds, in my mind, would be a no. The opioid funds could be up for discussion. That's my leading opinion.
Sure, that was my understanding too, that we were gonna hold until we understood the full financing commitments for the building, including remodel and all the rest of the money that we have to, we're gonna be obligated for one way or the other. So that I would agree with your consensus there.
And I don't know exactly how much was what they were looking at to precisely appropriate from either the ARPA funds or the opioid.
No. Rick, since you're still here, the possible new one, what kind of dollars are we potentially looking at from that?
We don't have our dollar amount yet. And only because right now it's going to depend on how many people participate as to how much each entity is going to get. So once they know how many are going to participate, then we'll start getting some dollar figures as to what our actual amount will be. So we don't have an actual figure yet.
Okay.
So
Chair, so.
Yes.
Do we know how this dollar figure, I mean, we're talking about 610,000 roughly, came to be? What's the purpose of that total dollar amount? How is it going to be used specifically? I mean, we're just giving money away in hopes of what?
Yeah, so I can probably answer some of that anyway. The goal was to create these community centers for up to 20 communities as community centers, using funds, whether opioid or ARPA funds, that would help to set these community centers up, pay for a program director to set up the programs within all of the communities that wish to take part. Then Human Services and the Board of Health or the Health Department could utilize funding such as grant funding and whatnot to provide anything from programming to meals to immunizations, healthcare checks, whatever they decided and whatever each community wanted within their area.
So most of this is going to be for a position or for a program?
Most of this would be the initial setup of the community center of those communities that would like one. They would literally have to reach out and volunteer that they maybe have a space or whatever they'd like to have the director. But yes, the bulk of it would be for the position.
And did we create a position a job description with details on what that position is supposed to do?
I have not seen a job description of any sort. However, this person would strictly be in charge of the programming and knowledge and flyers and whatever community direction that they would give.
I guess I question, how does ARPA and opiate, how are they gonna work together when the ARPA funds are gonna be done in a year? So I'm kind of questioning what's happening here.
I think what you're asking is longevity as to how is it going to be funded going forward?
Yes.
Correct. I mean, once these funds run out, of course, then it's going to be something that the board will have to consider whether or not they can continue to fund it beyond that.
Okay. And if 20 of them happen to come aboard real fast. Are we obligated with ARPA funds for these? Would we be obligated? Is there a set amount here?
Well, and I think you had a good point, is, it doesn't it doesn't differentiate how much money would be coming from each. And of course, as you've indicated to ARPA, you've kind of already set it aside, waiting to see what the building project does. So we'd be looking more at the opioid side of things. Opioid, and it can be used, opioid money can be used as long as it's, related to, the opioid epidemic. And so we have to figure out how that would tie in. I mean, there would have to be some aspect of treatment, for lack of a better word, when it comes to the opioid side of it, so.
It seems like it's a little bit of a stretch. So that's why I'm asking questions about what would the position do? How would it relate to the funding?
Right.
And then notwithstanding, this money is gonna be up, and who's gonna be on the hook for this position? And, okay, now someone has to eliminate this position, and we know how difficult that is. So that's something that we need to be considering now, if there's an ongoing funds that's going to support it.
I agree with Dave. This is kind of like a state mandate that they give you one-time money and then they stick you for the rest of it. So, I don't know. Are we talking about hiring another position, and who's this under? Human Services or under Health Department? Who's it gonna?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I have not seen this resolution, so I don't know what the proposal
I
even
got a
is.
copy of it here if you want.
Sure, no, thank you.
Oh.
So I don't know where this might fall from. It sounds like, Human Services, and who was the other department? Board of Health?
The Board of Health.
So I don't know if it would be some kind of a joint position between the two, or if it would be one coming from one area, so I'm not 100% certain on that. Again, this is kind of the first I've seen of it, so.
And my understanding here is they're talking about asking for that $600,000 a year for 5 years. And that far exceeds what we have, even if we used all of the ARPA and all of the opioid. That number exceeds what's available in one-time money, and now we are stuck with another position 2 years, 3 years out to pay for. And I'm not saying it's good, bad, or indifferent, I'm just saying that's what it is.
I agree with you.
I think part of the goal here was to at least make a proposal so that even if all funds aren't spent on whether it be the finishing product of the Justice Center or whatnot, so that when these funds become available, that they've got their wish list intact and potentially approved. Now, I would say probably this needs tweaking and possibly more specific information to come before this committee, but it does already have the approval of 8 county supervisors between the other 2 committees.
So this truly is just to get the opiate thing off the ground, to do something. Is that basically
Yeah,
what's
yes.
happening here right now?
Yes, and the goal is to have the
Right.
two departments work together in conjunction with the county to provide these increased services to the communities. The Department of Health has a lot of trouble reaching out to the communities to let them know what services they offer. So this is a good fit for them. It's also a good fit for Human Services. People can come directly to their own community centers and don't have to drive, say, to Whitehall or Osseo or Trempealeau to get their information. They can go to their local community center and receive whatever assistance they're looking for. Not to mention having educational programs, reach-out programs. So it does encompass a full multitude of things, whether it be healthcare or whatnot. So I think maybe we can also put together, those 2 committees can put together maybe a more specific list for this committee to see and a more refined budget.
I think that would be an excellent idea. But right now, I have a lot of confusion. Now, just looking at the fiscal impact statement, the bottom line for computer equipment, blah, blah, that sort of thing. I can understand using this one-time money for that. Creating the position with the potential down the road, 1, 2, 3 years of general levy money having to support this position is where I have serious questions.
And I think that part of it, if you're creating something that you know ends in 5 years, the reach out portion and the community then, it would be their voice. Do they want their levy dollars to be utilized for helping individual communities within the county?
With that statement, I would think that hopefully the committee kind of thinks the same, that I would like to see that statement as part of this package, that down the road, or a year, 2 years, some commitments coming back from the local communities as to what they may be willing to put into this. Or commitment or suggestion, whatever you want to call it, but some kind of feedback included with this language or the background for it or something.
Chair, I would just say too that, it seems logical that, opioid funding could probably be tied together with a community resource center project. Probably would make sense to not have a position put together. Maybe somebody from Human Services can volunteer and be added to their job description for a couple of years until it is determined that, oh man, there's a lot of funding that we can get back from the communities to help support a position. Something along that nature, I think would be fantastic to be more self-supporting. It feels like from a fiduciary responsibility, signing up for something that could very well be long-term beyond the funding that we currently know, it's tough. It's tough for me to sign on to. But I think there could be an opportunity for staffing that we currently have that might be able to help in that way.
And another thing, just after being in Madison this week, it sounds like the state, a big item for the state is to try to get more money back into communities for these types of things. Maybe we need to sit back a little bit and see what the state may come up with for us. And there again, never mind what that part is. Just so we don't go ahead and start approving something and find out 6 months from now that the state had something, but seeing as though we started, we are no longer qualified.
Yeah, it's,
I have seen that sort of thing happen in government before, personally.
Chair, for the record, do we know who wrote this?
I think Deb Suka wrote it, correct?
Oh, did I miss that?
I think I saw that someplace. Yeah, resolution drafted by Deb Suka.
Oh, okay, there it is, yep. It might make sense for Deb to come to the committee and give more details
More
at some point.
details.
Yeah, I think
mean,
if we
she
can.
sponsored it, then she should be here, advocating for it.
Yeah, I think if we can tweak this, we did see in our committee meetings a more precise budget. We also had a 3-page handout that discussed all of the various items that they could do within these community centers currently. So
That.
I will also ask about potential job description and the other concerns that the committee has, and
then just another thing, this may be getting too far out. I just happened to be doing some reading that stated back, I think it was 2017, Congress passed a resolution or passed a law, whatever you want to call it, that offered more grant money and ability of states to do more things along this community center thing. It's the first I had ever heard about it. I haven't found anything that the state utilized any of that. Is that out there, or is that something sitting idly by that might be something that would help qualify for this? I had never heard about it till I happened to be reading it in a book that. But the wording in that book of what was passed was identical to the wording in this resolution. At this
I
point,
make a motion that we at least postpone this or table this.
table it and send it back to the other committees for more
Right.
work.
Yeah, more detail.
Okay. Do I have a second to that?
Which committee do you want to send it to?
Human Services seems how that's who originated it.
Yep. With possible coordinating with health if there's reason for it.
So, without a vote on
Well, it's gotta be voted on the table.
John made a motion to send it back to the other committees. Looking for a second.
Well, definitely second it, I guess,
Okay.
if nobody else has.
Okay. Any other discussion, comments?
it? So if we send it back, if we're gonna vote then to send it back, or not,
Right.
it'll go back to another committee and then come back to us.
Correct.
If we don't vote to send it back, then we will need to vote on whether we want to
The
do this
original,
as it's
up or
written.
down on the original thing.
I just think we need a little more information, don't we? Or
No, what I'm getting at is, do you want to vote on this now, or have it come back to us and vote on it later?
That's what we're voting on right
That's what
now.
we're gonna vote on.
Right.
yes, to have it come back.
To have it go
Well,
back to
hopefully we got
committees.
more detail when it comes back.
No, it could come back in a wholly different resolution anyway, right?
Yep, it could, if we voted.
Or potentially, it could come directly to the full board. Correct? Or does it now have to come
Spending
back to
money,
this
it's gotta
committee?
come through
Yeah,
here.
anytime there's money to be spent, it has to come
Gotcha,
through this committee.
okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
Here, Item 5 in your whereas, it says several communities that are already begun to create their own. And that includes the Wanick Center in Arcadia, the Friendship First Church in Blair. Other communities have already done this, so they don't get anything out of this? Or, and we're supposed to fund all the other communities except those two? To me, this is way too vague, the way it is.
Sure.
Right, and just in conversation, I know that the goal was to incorporate those community centers as well and help, having a program coordinator would help them create more programming and just have all of the sites be cohesive, but at the same time meeting the needs of each individual community, because what Osceo's needs are might be different than what Trempealeau's are.
Any other comment on the motion to send back to committee? Okay, we'll call for a vote on the motion to send it back to committee for more work. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
It goes back and we'll see what you can do with it. The ARPA funds report.
I'll put that table, or send it back to committee now.
At this point, if everything's that's been requested is granted, we're 10,598,000 in the hole, more than we have.
Chair, a question for council here. At what point do we have a responsibility to go to the requesters of all of the different requests and say, thank you for your request, approved or denied? When, or do we even have to?
You're on the, I'm sorry, which item are you on right now?
This is the
Number 12?
discussion action on ARPA funds.
Do you have your microphone on?
So,
Sorry, thank you.
I mean, we have, it shows here, this is the funds we have, this is what's already been allocated, and the balance of 1.78 for Supervisor John over here. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 more requests for a total of 12.38 million. I mean, we probably can't afford that because we're in the negative. At what point do we go back to each of these requesters and say approved or denied?
My thought is that, and again, my understanding is that the board is essentially waiting to see until the Justice Project Center is done and the remodel to see what they need or don't need. So the committee can ultimately decide whether they want to notify these individuals or organizations and say, we received your request, we aren't ready to designate funds yet, we'll contact you when that time comes. Or, I mean, you simply can just advise them that there isn't going to be money to be given to them, depending on what route you want to go. But I would say that because you're probably looking at least another, end of the year, maybe early next year before you know for certain on the ARPA funds as to what you might need, that at least some notification of them in some form or fashion probably would be appropriate. It's just a matter of what message do you want to send to them. Do you want them still to think that they're going to be considered, or do you just want to be like, no, we can't do this?
And I believe we've got till sometime in '24 to make the final decision on these dollars.
Correct,
Forget
yep.
the month, but
Yep,
it's
I
into
think
'24.
24 and then spend by 26, I believe.
Yeah.
And just to confirm, this is it. We're not going to get any more ARPA funds or.
Unless they do some new legislation, that's it.
So we heard, I believe it was last meeting, we're probably going to see a $3 million bill for the renovation. I mean, that's an estimate, which is double what we've got left. I mean, I think we're pretty certain that we can't afford any of the rest of these requests unless, one of these is a real priority for us, besides that, so.
Anything else?
Who would the clerk write the letter based on?
I think that's where the requests have been going to, but that's just my understanding anyhow, so certainly it could come from that office, or wherever you decided it wanted to come from.
Anything else on ARPA funds? I think we as a committee kind of stand with our, so it's going to stay there till we're sure the new building is done. That's my understanding of what we're doing with the rest of the funds, and hopefully we come in with some money left over for others.
Yeah.
But right now, getting that building operational is the most service to the most people in the county, and make sure it can operate. If you can't finish it, then you've got a bunch of money sitting there that you haven't been able to, nobody can use because it's not done. So, okay. Okay, moving on. Do we have a resolution
So
to?
there's not gonna be a resolution because the vote actually never went to county board. Exec finance is the only one that passed the $6,000 to go to veterans.
Okay, so all
There's
we
not
have,
gonna be a resolution at
so
all.
all we have to do is agree to bring it back? Or don't we have to do anything? Does it just come back?
All just saying that
Just gonna move it, okay.
without the resolution.
Does everybody understand what we're talking about? No, okay. We allocated $6,000 early on for the
January
veterans
22.
to purchase some things. When the final bill came in, it was under 4,000, 37 or 3,900?
3698.
3,700, yeah. And so that money is left over to go back into that 20,
Yeah, whatever's left.
2,100, 2,300 is coming back into the ARPA kitty.
Oh. And so we'll get an updated one of these with that money included.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's only got the 3,698. It used to say 6,000, but then he put actual spent, so this is the new.
I got it.
Yep. Okay, we don't have to do anything then.
Correct.
Just moving on. Okay. I like those better. Okay, now we're on to the ARPA fund requests, and the OSU community is here to talk to us. So, would somebody like?
All right, thanks for having
Yeah,
us.
you're
I'm
welcome to
Josh
come up to
Bennett.
here or to sit at one of those and turn the
I can
microphone
sit
on.
here. This
Why
is totally
don't you all come up?
Okay.
There's room for all three, isn't there? There's room for all three.
Josh, just push the button on the microphone so they can Perfect. There you go. Yeah. There we go.
All right, so since we are on the topic of ARPA funds, Josh Pettis, City Mayor of Osseo, joined by a couple other members of the Stoddard Park Rejuvenation Committee, looking at requesting some funds to redo the park in Osseo. A large portion of the park was built, I believe, in '78, with the latest updates in '98. Can no longer get pieces for the equipment. If you can, they're very, very expensive. It's not currently handicap accessible, so it's not very inclusive to everybody to play. I'll let other members comment on some of their feedback, but
It's a large dollar project, and of course, this is difficult for a small community to come up with these kinds of funds. We're looking for grant funds, and of course, if you know of any other funds that would help us fund this. I think it's an important project in that it brings a lot of play to the community. We get a lot of visitors in Stoddard Park, and a lot of people use that for reunions, gatherings, and of course, we want to keep it up. Unable to do that with tax dollars, and we're searching out funds in other places as well. Now, I guess we would like some clarification on the ARPA funds. You wouldn't be appropriating any this year, and there probably will not be any left. Is that right?
That is a correct
Okay.
statement, yep.
Well, we're maybe barking up the wrong tree, but, you know, if there are county programs that can help us with this project, we'd certainly appreciate it. We think it's a big asset to the northern part of the county. And we certainly don't have any of those services in the northern part of the county that address people with disabilities. And this park would address both disabilities and elderly people. It would bring the whole group together with this type of equipment.
Sorry to interrupt, but have you talked with your local Lions Club about anything with the disability? Because most Lions Clubs are willing to put time and labor in to help with things like that. Have you talked to them, or?
We have had focus groups with all of
Okay.
the organizations in our community. It's a community-wide effort. And, you know, in the past, Osseo has raised a lot of funds for different projects. We have built a couple ballparks with funds. We have donated to the golf course with funds, trying to keep that area up. It's not an impossible thing, but I think this particular project would probably spread out over too many years to be feasible to totally fundraise for it. So.
And we do believe that this project is much larger than the city of Osseo. There is not an inclusive playground within 40 miles. I mean, the closest, there's nothing in northern Wisconsin. And, you know, with the Disabilities Act and the emphasis on that, it's much bigger than what just our community would enjoy from it. And we felt that it was a very appropriate use of those funds, because those funds, in our view, are meant for things that address disabilities, that address elderly, that address wellness and health and all those things. I believe that you all received a copy of the grant application, and a lot of that is outlined in there. But we are looking at it as a much bigger project than just our community, and are being quite aggressive in our fundraising locally, and felt that it was important that the county put, you know, some effort towards helping with this in the northern half of the county.
Did you receive a commitment from the city for any funding of this sort of?
I can tell you, just like the county board, budget numbers are very tight, and there's really nothing that we can commit for 2023, and 2024 doesn't look any better. We're currently expected to participate in the Highway 10 project in 2024. We just are finishing the stages of a $6 million water treatment plant, followed by a $16 million wastewater treatment plant. So, yeah.
So your ARPA money is already spent that came to?
Sure is.
Okay.
Yep.
So we're doing the same thing.
But I'd certainly like it if you would keep your ears open, if you, in some of your if you run across any funding opportunities, send them our way.
That we can do.
I actually do have one you potentially could reach out to NASA, which is the National Squirrel Association. They're out of Holman, and they have some funding potentially for anything that is related to the disabilities.
Okay.
They are doing a small project in the village of Trempealeau, so you can reach
Okay.
out to them.
That's good to know.
Thank you.
I just have one question. Thank you for coming, by the way.
Yes, thank you.
We need to hear from everybody's perspective, and it is important.
Yeah.
There is a huge budget constraint on all perspectives. My question is, the total project was $577,883? That's what we're looking at? It was a
Yes.
total, that was just the whole
That's the
project?
total.
Yes.
Okay, it wasn't a portion of it, or, okay,
No.
I just want to make sure.
So
Okay.
we were asking
The to-
for.
For the total?
No, not for the total. We had asked the county for, I believe, about 300,000, which is phase one.
Okay, so, because this is what I have, is that right then?
Paul did it.
So we have on our sheet right here, Osseo Star Park rejuvenation, $577,000.
Yeah, it should have been phase one, which is,
Yeah, we asked for phase one.
Carol's got that.
302,993.
Do you have this? Do you have this? First of all, I want to say this is really a nice presentation.
Yes, it was.
No, I
Yeah, we worked hard on
haven't
that.
read through all the details on that, so we probably just need to
It's
update.
I think you got a good one for putting in for grants.
Yeah, we have a couple other grants we're looking
Yeah.
at too, so I mean, but it's a large project, so it
Yeah.
will be a lot of work.
Yeah.
But,
and if you come back to us after you've, calculated the Justice Center and seen what that comes back at, and there's 10,000 left over that you can allocate, totally
Anything
would
is.
be open to that as well.
Well, and that's one of the reasons, going back to my statement before about, getting back to the people who requested, I mean, it's probably best we say we're holding until we do know everything, right? So, I mean, I wouldn't want to reject something and then come to find out, hey, you want $5,000, I
Yeah.
mean, let's just hold.
Yeah, it's helpful for groups
Yeah.
like us to know where you're at. We're
Yeah.
not gonna make a decision until X.
That's why
Or
I'm
we
glad
don't
you came.
anticipate being able to fund
Yeah.
you, but if you want us to hold your,
Yeah.
application until
Yeah.
Y, that's all helpful.
Just a note to change that 577 to 302.
Right,
What was the number, John? You said
It's 302 something, 302,993.
In that application, that amount is broken down into some other specifics, so that if you looked at one of those and said, okay, we can do the $79,000 for the resurfacing on phase one, or we can do whatever, that's all in that. If anybody else needs a new copy of it, just let us know.
Good.
All right.
That's all we got.
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Well, thanks for taking
Thank
the
you.
time to come. We do
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nobody here from Lake Henry?
I don't see anybody. So I guess we
That's
just
on here too, so.
make mention that they have a round number of 500,000 they're asking for.
I don't know if I'm correct on this, but you probably know more than anybody, that, didn't they get money from High Crush for the Lake Henry project? I thought they got like $1 million or something from High Crush. And what happened to that money?
There again, we can put it on the list, but personally first of all, there's a round number that would say they didn't do a lot of research to this.
Right.
And then now you bring that question up, I think, before.
Well, I know it was, I know they got some initial money from High Crush.
That-
What happened to that, I don't know.
I think we can leave it on the list as it is, and if and when we get to any money, then we have to look at more details. That would be my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think, I don't see there being any money left over anyway, but if by chance you don't get, when Kurt was mentioning, we put that first half of the ARPA money into the building project to cover it, he said there could be, not all, just a contingency fund, there could be some returns. Well, At this point, I haven't been to a property meeting lately, but looks like that's not going to happen in the return funds. So I thought maybe prices of stuff is coming down, so maybe they could be, but
They're going up. Yeah. Okay.
The lumber yo-yo has got a real long string on it.
right.
Okay, FEMA funds update, do we have something here that I didn't see on the handy? I don't think there's anything, is there?
I really don't have anything. The only thing, I'm a little disgusted with that because we really didn't. And by the time we paid integrity, we're lucky if we break even on the thing. And,
Oh, yeah.
and that was supposed to be returned to. We were promised by integrity that would be paid for. We paid them, but we never got it back.
Yeah.
So that literally used up anything we did get from FEMA.
Right.
You know, Chair, something we might want to consider
Well,
is,
you know who
you
headed
know,
that up?
Yeah.
if we didn't get our money back on that, we should do a request for a congressional investigation. That's just wrong.
Yeah.
And, you know, individuals can do a request for a congressional. We should do it as a county, because it just doesn't feel right that, you know, they asked us to ask for money, and then we spent everything we did everything right, and then we don't even get anything, and we don't even get our, you know, requested funds back that they said we'd get back. So I don't know how we would get that started, but, you know, I'm sure our new representative in Washington might help us on that one, so.
I gave him all our original requests. He came and talked to me a couple months ago already.
Oh, did he?
And
What, the monies, or the submission that you guys did through your office, when you received it back that it was denied, was there specific line items as to reasons why those were denied?
Or not, I don't believe there were like specific reasons, they were just all highlighted in red.
And then they also said
I
on
remember seeing
it,
that whole
Because
chart.
obviously there was certain requirements, like it had to be items that weren't already in a budget.
Right.
But obviously I saw the list of items and it was,
Were they basically a
Numerous.
private
right.
They
It was
were a
called-
private
It was brought in
company
by,
that had no connection with anything, really?
well, according to their group that's been doing this forever, and it was brought by one of our department heads. But anyway, that was suggestion, and it was Sheriff's Office and Human Services. And anyway, I'm really disappointed in the fact that we paid this bill that we haven't even got that back, and that was
And-
$90-some thousand.
and potentially where are other counties sitting? Because I'm sure they did very similar to what we did. Not that you want to muddy waters, but do we have more power if there's 3, 4 other 6 communities or counties that had the same issue and want to file this congressional complaint? So,
Who knows whether they would or wouldn't, but, you know.
right, but we
make
still
a
can move
request.
forward. But I'd be curious to know, is this kind of was it kind of a statewide thing, or were all theirs approved in Dane County and hardly any of ours were?
Well, it should be freedom of information where we could get that.
One would
Request,
think you
yeah.
can, I know from a village perspective, almost all of our dollars we submitted, things like overtime, protective equipment, hand sanitizer, putting up a glass barrier in the office, they were all covered.
Supposedly, but we didn't get everything covered.
I mean, for a municipality. So I was really surprised by that, how much of that was covered in a small village versus virtually almost nothing for the county.
And the other thing they had in there that, a lot of these line items said that the courthouse was closed, and we never did close it. Yeah, so, to me, it was erroneous information given to FEMA in the first place.
Just a comment, that when us two were on the board at that time, we were sold the bill of goods that this was the ultimate thing to do. And it was gonna bring us guaranteed, you know, one of those guaranteed things. You're gonna get money back, and we see what we got.
The old-fashioned taillight guarantee. When you can't see the taillight, the warranty's gone.
Well, nonetheless, if we can request a congressional, and that congressional office goes to that organization and says, hey, you know, we didn't even get any money, you should reduce our bill and give us a credit back, or something.
Yeah, something's gotta be.
This is wrong. Right.
And we
back
can't
forth
be
with
the
them.
only one. There must be other entities that are filing complaints and whatnot, so yes. I mean, I don't know, again, like, to your point, Dave, what the paperwork looks like or whatever, what you need in regards to that, but I think certainly it would be worth checking
My question,
into.
who would we ask to do this? Would this be something we asked Rick to do?
Maybe it's something.
I
that-
would think Paul.
Paul?
Yeah.
Paul's the one that submitted it.
I would think Paul.
But we're talking about, excuse me.
Bad week for Paul, he's only
to our
gonna be here
congressional
Thursday.
delegation.
Right, does it need attorney,
Right.
I,
Yeah,
and we
some,
don't know
I think
yet,
it's a combination
obviously,
of the
but
two, probably.
Probably,
Yeah.
at least
Paul.
make a contact. It
right.
might not do us any good.
the chair of the
Reach out to
Does
board.
Rick have to send them something? I don't know.
Reach
The
out
chair
to
of the
the
finance
office and say,
committee.
what do we need to do to submit a request for a congressional investigation, and go from there.
Yes.
So,
And it's not that hard. I know my father did one years ago, and he just picked up the phone and called, and they said, we got it. And any individual can do it, so I bet it's pretty quick. Especially since we have all the documents, he could just send it to me.
Right. I gave a copy of all the documents to
Yep.
Van Orden, so. And he was gonna work on it. I haven't
maybe a
heard
call to Van Orden to see if he's moved on this at all, if it's over a month.
anything.
Okay.
Is
Yeah, well,
that,
that doesn't move fast, you know, it took a week just to get a Speaker of the House.
at this point, are we just gonna kind of, we need to look further into this
I
and
think
make some
keep it on the
contact?
deal, we should, I agree with Dave, we gotta do something. with
Something,
this.
yep. Start,
Yeah, thanks for bringing it up. Otherwise I'd forget about it.
okay, well, let's see, this might be for Sam. The rejection that came back was from the government, not from the agency that we contracted, is that correct?
Correct. They're the ones that submitted.
So, has that agency had any communication with us since?
I wouldn't know, they email Paul. He might not have said anything.
I mean, to see, you know, if they said, gee,
Well, this has been a while now, it's probably,
Since probably his last update.
yeah,
he said we were only getting
like at least 6 months ago, and probably the last contact we've had with Integrity. And I think the gal that we were working with at Integrity is no longer with Integrity too, so.
There was a person that was on Zoom different times with us, and so we were working directly with an individual.
And I
I'm sure we
think-
have that information somewhere, right?
Paul does, yes.
Yeah.
And I think it would be appropriate that our next meeting, we would have some sort of an update.
some sort of
On
an
this.
update and some communication back from this integrity company with their assessment of what went wrong.
That's a good point.
Because it could be something as simple as not enough information, not enough dates. Maybe we put a range of dates and they want each specific date
There were
listed.
invoice dates.
Yeah.
With the
Yeah.
invoice number, with the amount, with what it was cost, what the number it went to.
Actual copies of every invoice,
Yeah.
everything.
It was all there, yeah, every copy. The invoices, I did 50-month services, and I, all the software bills, all the computer bills, all the.
I hate repeating myself, but I sat here and looked at the screen, and it was a gal, not, it couldn't be, but just promised that
Yeah.
we can
Like
do
these-
it.
like these little
So I
computers
wonder
here.
if we have that
was one of
recording
the things
someplace.
that
I'd
was
like you
gonna
to
be
see
paid
it.
for.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. No, man.
Okay, well, that's.
Well, it's probably online.
I think we
Part
could
of the
find
meeting.
it, and not that that's gonna do us any
No,
good.
it doesn't help.
I'm
us.
sure their fine print in their contract says there's no guarantees as to the return on this investment.
Return of funds.
Seems like every month for
Well,
about 3 months.
there was a guarantee that, I think they guaranteed that their fees would be paid for by FEMA, so
Oh,
we'd
we
get
should-
that back.
The admin fees are supposed to be returned.
Yeah.
And we
Right.
should, if that's true, then we should get Rick to file a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Well, let's all see what we can come back with for information on this whole thing in all directions for the next meeting. So, anything else on FEMA? Wait a minute, this is FEMA now, and we were talking about ARPA, so
Well, this was the FEMA update. We were talking about FEMA update,
Yeah.
number 14.
Yep. Didn't some of this commingle some of the conversation, I think? Okay, the next item is set time and date for the next regular meeting.
April 3rd.
April 3rd, right, yeah.
8:30?
Works for me. How about anybody else?
Works for me.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, gonna adjourn the meeting at 9:41 or 2.
June 41. Do you have your calendar open? What does May